Think about this. How much coffee do you consume on a weekly basis? How many energy drinks do you use to keep yourself awake at night? Well, I don't know about you, but I did the math here. And this is what my family consumed for the past week. No, we're not 10 all the time. Today, I will be expanding on different ways caffeine can influence the body during different situations. Caffeine and the future of the children and health benefits caffeine has on the body. According to the Mayo Clinic, about 18.7% consume 200 milligrams per day. 200 milligrams is equal to 2 cups of 5 ounces of caffeine or 4 cans of soda. That doesn't sound too bad, but what effects does this have on our bodies? As a college student, I can say that I've used a lot of energy drinks to keep myself awake during the night to study for an exam or do a presentation last minute. But before I began drinking any types of drinks that contain caffeine, I did my research. After researches on coffees, teas, and energy drinks, caffeine has many effects on the body, some negative and some positive. It is important for everyone to know what effects because we all inject caffeine in one way, form, or shape. Caffeine is a stimulant to the nervous system. It does not cause some mild form of addiction. However, the withdrawals of caffeine do not begin to compare to symptoms of withdrawals from any addictive drug. If a person consumes 2 or more cups of coffee every day, then suddenly stops, he or she may face some symptoms. And these symptoms may be headaches, fatigue, not being able to concentrate, mood swings. A lot of things might happen if you just stop abruptly drinking coffee. Since caffeine does not have any harmful drug-seeking behaviors like drugs or alcohol, it is not considered a serious addiction. So if you withdraw from caffeine, you're not going to go binge on drinking 2 or 3 days. Coffee takes about 5 to 7 hours to eliminate half of itself from the body. So after 8 hours, most of the caffeine is gone. As a matter of fact, I have a clip here that would demonstrate more about how caffeine might work on the body.
Caffeine changes the brain's chemistry. It blocks the action of the chemical adenosine that's associated with sleep, which is why after a coffee, a person feels more awake. Caffeine activates the brain's pleasure center, which contributes to caffeine addiction. And it also triggers the sympathetic nervous system, setting off the fight or flight response. This stimulation injects adrenaline into your system, making you more alert and responsive.
So yes, as I mentioned before, it affects your sleep at night. So if you consume caffeine at 2 p.m., yes, it takes 7 to 8 hours to get out of the body. So if you're sleeping at 11, it might still affect you and not be able to sleep. When, on the other hand, if caffeine being consumed later in the day, it can interfere with your sleep. Everyone's sensitivity to caffeine varies, and because of this, insomnia and nervousness may or may not occur. High levels of caffeine intake may cause increase of calcium and magnesium loss in urine. To balance this out, if you're drinking 1 cup of coffee, make sure you add 2 tablespoons of milk. Two tablespoons of milk. If a person is sensitive to caffeine, he or she more likely to find a rise in heart rate and blood pressure when consuming caffeine. Also, according to WebMD, women that are pregnant or trying to get pregnant showed no links in low amounts of caffeine and trouble conceiving, miscarriage, birth defects, premature birth, or low birth rate. One should consider, though, keeping the caffeine intake at the bare minimum. Second, so this is a picture of explaining how caffeine can affect everything in the body. starting from the brain all the way down to the liver. So yeah, I've already talked about it. And okay. Second comes the children. Children living in a modern day have so much access to caffeine through coffee or energy drinks. 10 years ago, children under age of 10 only consumed 22 milligrams of caffeine, and that is nothing comparing to now. Nowadays, children just go into the supermarkets, buy energy drinks, and get themselves out. Everyone has different sensitivity, as I mentioned before, so some children might face some symptoms and others may not. In addition to this risk of obesity, it is also considered because of all the sugar consumed in caffeine and all these energy drinks. Caffeine does not affect the hinder or stunt growth. Researchers have not found support for such claims. Finally, caffeine does not have any proof of benefits, but there are some to make a list. Usually, coffee drinkers, including myself, would say that caffeine improves energy, improves mood swings, and improves your sociability in the morning. I'm a type of person who needs a cup of coffee every morning in order to function and be peaceful with everyone around me in the mornings. Caffeine might have some influence in reducing some risks of diseases such as Parkinson's disease, liver disease, and type 2 diabetes. The Parkinson's disease is a disease where it's in the nervous system where you start shaking, you cannot control it. So a cup of coffee a day might lower this Parkinson's disease. However, consuming moderate level of caffeine does not mean we can totally prevent all these diseases. More research needs to be done on how caffeine can actually reduce the risk of these diseases. We must all take these ideas and facts into consideration before taking the third cup of coffee or the fourth can of soda, or even giving them to our children. In many ways, caffeine has different negative and positive effects on our bodies. I have carefully considered my decision in keeping my routine of drinking 1 cup of coffee every morning. To conclude, there are many positive and negative effects on our bodies. The next time you think of drinking that 1 cup of energy drink full of caffeine and sugar, remember everything I've told you about caffeine. Remember all the effects on the bodies, not only now, but also in the future. I will end this with a quote from Greg Egan, an Australian science fiction reader. Widespread caffeine in use explains a lot about the 20th century. I will leave you with that thought.
I'm sorry I didn't run my timer on that one either. Can you tell me what the time was?
8:04.
Thank you. I didn't get enough caffeine this morning, so I'm forgetting to do that. All right. Jessica, what did you think?
I liked your topic because I'm pretty sure everyone here drinks caffeine. And I liked the visuals, and I thought you explained them pretty good. And I liked how loud you were. I was able to hear you. You spoke clearly, and then you cited your sources. You can probably read less off of your paper. And then I liked how you summed up everything like that.
Okay. I like the series of rhetorical questions, and I like the box of cans and goodies that you use for your attention device, although I think you rushed by it. I think you could have shaken it a little bit more and let us see what kinds of things you got in there. The topics very clearly identified. I thought the thesis was relatively clear, and you had a good justification. I'm not sure I really heard a layout of what the supporting points would be, and as we were listening, I heard a transition to a second point, but I was having a hard time figuring out what the first point was. It was very general about the effects on the body, and then there was a section on children, and the section on children is so much less in terms of time and development than the other part was, that it feels like it's not so much an afterthought, but if it is a separate section, then it emphasizes why that first section needed to be organized a little bit more, because there's so much information in there. I thought you did an excellent job citing your research in the presentation. And here and there you had little comments to help make it interesting, a personal story, maybe a little bit of a joke or a snarky comment about people's consumption of caffeine. I thought those things worked really well to keep the interest going. The delivery is a bit problematic for most of the speech. When you look up and talk to us, I think you do a pretty good job. I think when you're looking up, you really are talking to the audience and not just, oh, I got to look up because the audience is out there and look back down. I got the feeling that you were looking at us, but you don't do it very often. And there are long periods of time where you're trying to use your voice effectively, you're trying to communicate things, but what you're doing is reading along, and you got to kind of get out of that habit. All right, thank you.